So, Frankie, what kind of food truck would represent you well?
Well, I love food and I love to work out. So it definitely would be a food truck with some salties and some sweets, with
Nice.
your like kind of natural health food. But I like a hearty kind of a situation. So it might be like a little burger spot with some like really natural stuff, some gluten-free options, with some like date bars and stuff for folks who are working out. Yeah. I was biking in Oregon a couple weeks ago, and I'm on this trail and I see some food trucks and I'm like, I'm so hungry. I'm like, I don't know, 20 miles in, I want some food. And the food options sucked. So
Oh,
I waited. I'm like, I got 5 more miles till I finish. I'm gonna. So I want somebody who's just riding through, getting a workout in, who just has hunger pains, can pull over, get some good solid food.
Something that actually
Right?
nourishes your body.
Yes.
I like it.
I dig it. I dig it. Kimberly, how about you?
Oh man, now I kind of want to change my answer a little. Frankie's being all healthy over there. We have a food truck here in Austin called Hey Cupcake. It is
Ooh.
Jack's favorite food truck. And so it's like naturally one of our main celebration trucks. And so I feel like I like a good celebration. So I picked Hey Cupcake or some kind of cupcake truck. I don't know what we would call ours, but something sweet.
There's the name right there.
Oh,
Something
something sweet.
sweet.
Oh, I like it. I bet it's taken already. If you run the something sweet truck, let us know.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would be a coffee truck
Oh, yeah.
for sure because I energize people. At least that's what I've been told.
And because he's obsessed with coffee.
Yes. Yes.
It's like a scientific method for coffee.
There is. There's this whole science behind it. And, I was thinking, well, maybe taco truck, but you know what? Could I live without tacos? I mean, I can
Oh.
get by without tacos.
Sounds
Are
kinda
you really
terrible.
living without tacos? I don't know. I mean, at least not in Austin,
Are
but
you really living?
can I live without coffee? Nah.
As someone who's moved from Texas to a state without breakfast tacos, I am
Right?
suffering. I am suffering deeply.
Come visit us. Breakfast tacos every day if you come visit, Frankie. Come on.
I don't know how I left Texas after learning about breakfast tacos.
And queso. Have you ever had queso somewhere else than Texas? It's like,
Right.
what is this? This is not it.
Right. I'm dairy free and I still eat queso.
And to you, our listeners, welcome to the Kimberly and Coach Show, where we bring you actionable practices you can use in your leadership and collaboration today. I'm Coach. Kimberly is right next to me. And today with us is Frankie Baines,
What?
community organizer in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh my gosh, we have been so excited about this episode. We met Frankie when she was living in Austin at a co-working space, Orange Co-working, and just immediately loved your whole vibe. Frankie is the kind of person that when you're in the room with Frankie, the room feels better. You just
Yes.
want to hang out with Frankie. Wherever Frankie is, that's a good place to be. And so we're really excited to have you in our virtual room today for our podcast.
Yes.
Y'all are so sweet. Thank you guys so much. Y'all are just same, just beautiful, beautiful people. So I'm super glad that y'all said, hey, what you doing, Frankie? Let's do this.
Yes. Yes. So fill us in what you're doing out in Utah. We catch glimpses in social, and we saw you on the news talking about this new conversation mural up on the Patagonia
Yes.
store. So catch us up. Give us the skin of what's going on out there.
Gosh, there's just so much good stuff, but something that I jumped in is a community project, and I jumped into it about a year ago. So I'm super excited to tell you all about it. It's called Utah Conversations. And when George Floyd passed away, when George Floyd was murdered, it was this huge, there's this huge uprising, and I had such an emotional response myself. And it was, it was really, really hard for my community, for all of us globally. And so with all of the protests happening, I started to ask myself, like, what do I think I can offer in this moment? Do I want to go out in the streets and protest, or do I want to go and what else could I be doing? How else could I be helping? So I thought about my teaching background, and I do a lot of facilitating and bringing folks together So I'm thinking, I think conversations are what can be really helpful in this moment because, I see us doing a lot of external work, which is so needed. We need this work. We need people on the pavement, like hitting the ground, really putting pressure on our governments, on our systems, putting pressure on folks. We need that. But it makes me ask the question of like, what happens when we get home? Because it's still hard in my workplace. Very well-meaning people cause a lot of harm that I've experienced, I see other people experience. So like, how do we get these changes to really be embodied,
Yeah.
So like relationships and conversations could be a first start. So I worked with some of my community, some of my friends, and I said, hey, what could we do? What do y'all think about something called Utah Conversations and getting folks to talk about anti-Blackness and talking about how we can make our community safer?
Yeah. So I was up late last night on your site, reading through and listening to interviews that you've done. Specifically, I was just obsessed with the About the Mural PDF that starts talking about the people who are represented in this big mural. And by the way, I'm going to post the link to all of this in the show notes so everybody who's listening can jump over there and catch up on it too. Will you talk with us about some of the people who are in this mural, how this mural expresses some of their experiences of Black joy?
Yeah. So we did the project and we had some recorded conversations, and this store had learned about it. Patagonia had learned about the project. Some of their employees had participated.
Oh,
and
cool.
They do some store window art, and they oftentimes fund artists to like create a mural art for their store.
Oh,
They
I
want
love
their
that.
stores to be like a community center. So they said, hey, we'd love it if you found an artist. So we looked for a Black artist and we did a call and we got a few submissions. And when we saw Blondine Jean's work, it was like just amazing. And she was already doing some art to like express her feelings with what's happening here. You can find her at Blondine Art on Instagram. She's absolutely amazing. So she began to listen to the conversations and she did the synthesis process. And she was like, okay, I see themes. So when you look at this mural, you're going to see all these beautiful people on the left. You'll see some parents, and these are real people. The biggest thing was, I want this to be. I want people to see themselves. So I want them to see people they know. I want them to see Black joy. I want people to feel like they can live into this. In a really impactful way. So we got a couple of parents. We got the outdoor auntie, who's amazing. She does outdoor Afro here in Salt Lake City and gets Black folks out into nature because it's healing, it's fun, and she loves nature. And so she puts on a lot of events through Outdoor Afro in our community, and also does a lot of amazing stuff as a city planner and as I can talk about her for days, but she doesn't.
She sounds cool.
Yeah.
But she's a mom, so that's the parenthood theme. And my friend Brian is in here featured with his daughter, and she's just it's got this beautiful intimate picture, and we felt like it was so beautiful to like include this little sweet moment with him and his daughter. And so the second theme that came up when she listened to the conversations was sisterhood. And so she has a couple of dancers in the center leaning on each other. And then on the far right, it's that leadership piece. She really wants people to feel empowered to step into their roles in our community, to create the change that they want to see, whatever that can be. So we have some leaders who were chosen because they participated in Utah Conversations, and that's Malijah. He was a trainer for Utah Conversations, and Billy was a participant. And he also helped lead out on the Black, Bold, and Brilliant project that came out of Utah Conversations. And Mrs. Betty Sawyer is right there, and she's a fundamental leader, and she was on the Black, Bold, and Brilliant project. And then we also chose Yvonne because we have a dance theme in the center of it, and Yvonne's a community leader that leads African culture classes and African dance classes in our community.
Nice.
Gosh, I love it so much. As you are doing this project, I know you started talking about like what can we be doing for when we get home? And in that vein, I was wondering, we are basically a leadership podcast. Do you see art as leadership? And if so, where do you see this art leading people to?
Okay, so yes, and yes. think you said 2 questions, so 2 yeses. But, you know, art is leadership without it being leadership. It is, and it hits you in a different way than that really cerebral kind of work, that work that puts you in like your prefrontal cortex kind of mode, like, well, let's logic our way into this.
Right.
And there's things that won't change through logic. Like logically, I know, what do I do that's illogical? I'm a pretty logical bitch. No. No, I know that if, I want to go ahead and, I don't know, there's just things that I do that probably are not very logical, and I probably need an emotional reason to change. I need like a really connection and need to really understand it in a different way to change. You're not going to argue me into change. You're not going to argue people into change. And right now we're in this situation that I think has to do with a lot of the information that we're getting, that we're really polarized, because the people we trust are giving us information, and it's way different than the other people's information, and we don't like each other. We are super polarized, and we're in this really protective, really guarded space, and the misinformation is out of control. And so, especially around race, the CRT thing has me totally shocked. It shouldn't even be an issue.
It shouldn't.
No, it should not be a conversation. It should not make anybody feel angry or sensitive or anything. It's just been historical stuff, and it's still manifesting itself today. So we still got to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, the thing that art does is it takes you to your heart space. It takes you deeper into your brain, deeper into your body, deeper into your heart than an argument will ever do. And I think it's the thing that changes us. That's why when you see plays, when you see a dancer, when you hear music, when you see murals or any type of visual art, it says, ooh, let me think about that. Let me feel that. Let me connect with it. So our artists are our leaders. My favorite quote is Toni Morrison. And she says, it just may be left up to the artist to do it. The scientists have been trying it, the social scientists, everybody's out here trying to figure out how to deal with our race issue. Historians, everybody, politicians, it just may be left up to the artist. They're not getting it done. And so, yeah, I definitely believe art is leadership, and I definitely deeply believe in supporting artists in any way that you can. So yeah, go out there and buy somebody's piece, support BIPOC artists, and it's important.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And as you think about this mural that you've been working with, where are you hoping that it is leading the conversation? You're very intentional about who is in it and what the themes are, so like if I were to walk up onto this mural and go into the Patagonia store and I see this, where would it lead me?
Yeah, there's a sense of outside of the white gaze, outside of the patriarch's gaze, outside of the gaze of misogyny. So I'm trying to live outside of that gaze. And this is an example of it. So as much as we're addressing that there are disparities and we got to handle business, there's something very empowering about being like, I'm going to be joyful, and this is the life. This is a part of our world. Like focusing so much on the change kind of can be so exhausting. Part of that quote where Toni Morrison in that same segment, and I'll share that with you all if anybody else wants to listen to this interview with Toni Morrison, but she's talking about how it's a distraction. She got at the time that she was writing, it's a distraction to deal with race in some ways. She got a lot of questions about, when are you going to start writing about white people? And her response is like, how audacious. When are you going to start writing about Black people? These are my people. This is my life. This is my experience. This is what I write about. It's almost, and the people made it an issue. It's just, it's such a non-issue, but people made it an issue. She's not writing about white people. And she's writing at this really high literate level. She's not writing to the mainstream. Why isn't she? Because she's a Black woman and she's writing to her experiences just like white people do. It's like outside of the gates of whiteness is a really important place to live. And so, yeah, I think when people see this, I just want people to see Black folks for who they are. Blondine wanted people to be able to see themselves really fully, not as a stereotype, not under anybody's level of expectation, just living just humans living who are just uplifting joy in the Black experience.
Yeah, almost giving permission to just live as a whole person, not just a soundbite or a piece of trauma to look at,
Yeah.
Man, that's so good. In this particular space, as you're doing community leadership, there's got to be some very unique challenges, especially maybe even in Utah, as a place that is not necessarily the most diverse place. What are the challenges that you are facing as you're doing community work like this?
I don't have like this list of challenges that's coming to mind. What kind of challenges am I facing? I think I'm gonna have to answer this question the best way that I can, because like I don't necessarily have this list of challenges, because I'm gonna do this work regardless. And I'm gonna speak to the truth of what needs to be done regardless. So any pushback, I don't do this. I don't do this for money or anything like that. So I don't have to worry about answering to somebody. So this is what's going to get done. This is what we need, And so I'm working with so many people who are supportive of this work, that I don't, we get stuff in our inbox, especially with Black, Bold, and Brilliant, because it's another thing that's like a outside of the white gaze kind of a focus, like Black, Bold, and Brilliant. We are having conversations that bring up joy, lift up our stories, talk about our experience. But sometimes we get stuff about like, what about this? What about that? That's a little bit too Black, or that's a little bit. I don't know what to tell you, because it's not for you. If it's not for you, it's not for you.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's shared with the whole community, because these are stories, and stories are wonderful.
Right.
But I love learning about folks from their perspective. I love reading across like different communities and racial backgrounds. I love to read a lot of books, so I just read as much as I can. And so I read all different type of cultures. But, I'm not going to censor the way that somebody tells their story. You know what I mean? That's not my place. And so I think if there's anything that, especially when it's in the media side, when it comes to like projects like Black, Bold, and Brilliant, we got some like, oh, is it going to be all Black? A lot of people who were white, most people who were white who were having the conversations. Yeah, I'm in Utah. Most of the people are white, and it is to deal with anti-Blackness. And Black folks don't need to deal with anti-Blackness the way that white folks need to deal with anti-Blackness. So yeah, the mural is mostly Black folks. The mural is Black folks, because it's when the artist looked at it, she got the message of Black joy. So I think that there's just this stance of, we're going to do what we have to do. And some people make noise and do whatever, but there's a lot of trusting that what we're doing is rooted in truth, and is rooted in love, and is rooted in just something that's not out here to harm anybody. There's just, I don't have much time for much of the naysaying.
Yeah. One of the things that I just love about the work that you're doing, I feel this is the way forward that you're paving, and the conversations, the mural, and these kinds of things. This is the way forward, and the idea that to bring a sense of safety and just being. Right. Yeah. Outside of the gaze, and outside of the socialization and all of that, the just being just struck me as I was reading through these stories, and as a way forward, I'm just struck in awe by these big, huge ideas that you're working with. And but in the big community as a whole, as we've heard the stories from our families and from our friends, I'm just, there's points last night when like I said, it's really late, but I'm just like, crying about these stories. And I'm like, this is it. This is the way forward. And I just love it. But the work that you're doing, as critical as it's got to be personally challenging. How are you caring for yourself through this journey?
Yeah, I think, the amount of time it is, it's a service and it's a showing up. So be tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's been the bicycle. I decided to do a bicycle tour this year just to treat myself, just to do something. I like to try different physical things, and I couldn't run anymore. So I'm like, okay, I can't train for a marathon. I can't run. What can I do? I can ride a bicycle. And I like the non-competitive spirit of bicycle touring. It's just a whole different pace. It's a whole different way of experiencing things. And so, I rode through Oregon for a little bit about 3 weeks ago and did something with adventure cycling. And we did 200 miles through Oregon and camped and all that. And that's been medicine. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. Awesome. So as we bring today's conversation for a landing, Frankie, how can our listeners engage with you and your project?
You can find me at utonconvos.com or frankiebaines.com, and y'all will have my spelling because everything's all spelled uniquely. And there's a conversation guide on the website, on Utah Convo's website. Please have these conversations in your home. Please think about the relationships that you have and how you can nurture them and how you can be in service of each other, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. So, I think as I watch married couples, I've learned that it's not about being right. If you want to be right, you're going to be single. And so
that's true. That's true.
And community is the same. So if we want to be right about whatever's really dividing us, then we're not going to be together. So how about we drop? It just really doesn't even need to be where it's at. Let's just really work on our relationships, showing up in an authentic space, holding space for folks, and just connect with each other. And I think that we can make some headway that'll make a little bit more sense than some of the nonsense that I'm seeing.
Yes, I love it.
So good.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Frankie. It is always a joy to be with you.
Always.
And to our dear listeners who are listening in, thanks for tuning into the Kimberly and Coach Show, where we endorse romantic dinners, long walks to the beach, and movies that make us laugh. We'll see you next time.
Okay, so we just finished talking with our friend Frankie, and she's involved in this conversation called Utah Conversations. And so what we are doing now in the epilogue is talking about what are the practices that you can take with you into your leadership today.
Yeah. So one of the elements that Frankie really brought out was that as much as we would like to logic our way to change, the reality is that you can't. Okay, so let's get real. You can logic your way to a certain degree of change, right?
Yeah, if you speak loudly and emphatically and you just bulldoze everyone, they might get tired and just go along.
Right. But I don't know how effective that really is until you reach someone at the emotional level. The emotional level is really where true change happens. And this is, I think, something that the smartest leaders of our time really get. Okay. Brene Brown.
Yeah.
Right off the top of my head. That's a huge thought leader in this space. The CEO of Microsoft.
What?
And everybody's like, come on, coach, it's Microsoft, right? But listen, I'm involved with Microsoft. I know the shift that's happened in their shop. Now, I've never been on the Microsoft payroll, but I've worked in and around it with Microsoft for over 20 years. And the shift that Satya Nadella has made in the company with his emphasis on empathy has turned that company into a $1 trillion giant.
Right. A lot of times when you're leading, when you're arguing for your point, what you're doing is you're creating an us versus them. Like, I need to be right, you need to be wrong, and then we will go where we're going. But when you involve conversation and empathy and story, when you receive, when you kind of look, like Frankie talked about this gigantic mural that they made, there's something where you're trying to step into a story and hear it that brings people onto the same team. And that is going to help you lead a lot better than when having minor victories and us versus them conversations. If we can get into each other's stories, allow people to be whole people and take into account their whole experience, then we are going to have a team that functions a lot better.
Oh, yeah. So I think the practice that, as Kim and I were kind of processing Frankie's brilliance, because I mean, really, she's brilliant. I could listen to her all day. But to lay it down and listen, be captured by the story that's happening. And that is a whole different approach to team leadership and to conversations, to relationships, to marriage. As Frankie pointed out, it's like, if you're going to be right, you're going to be single. As people who just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that, a lot of wisdom. So not just through logic, but through heart, emotion, experience. That's where change happens. And that's the way forward in so many spaces and places for true social change through and to real leadership change. If you want to see the change happening in your shop, you got to engage, not just at a this is business. There's nothing personal here. Like, are you kidding me? It's all personal. All right. Let's, and I get that there are certain functions that have to happen, but it's all personal.
And it does feel often like to do this kind of work requires a slowing down.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to listen to the other side because we're busy. We want to move forward. But that time that you invest to slow down and to hear people, it will come back tenfold. It's such a big deal when people feel valued and seen. And I think that's one thing that Frankie was trying to do with that project, with the mural, is not only show, this was coming out of the George Floyd murder and the protests. And there's a lot of conversation about Black trauma happening, but also a whole picture to include Black joy. And so I think that you can take that into wherever you're leading and recognize that there are things that you're not seeing in the midst of conflict when you're just like zeroed in on an argument, that if you could take into account a broader picture, you're going to get more of that person. And if they're on your team, you want their engagement and their energy. And it's going to be worth the time that you invest in that.
True. So that's our epilogue for this time around. Thank you again for hanging out with us. And of course, all of the good stuff will be in the show notes. Don't forget to check out those links.
Yes.
And this has been the Kimberly and Coach Show. I'm Coach. This is Kimberly sitting next to me. We'll talk to you next time.
See you later.